Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Sports Card Hustle. We're in episode 12. I am Danny, alongside Bryan, as usual, owner and operator, presented by Black Gold Sports. We have a really cool episode today with the Vice President of CGC, Andy Broome.
Let's go. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, it was an awesome one. So we will cue the music and cut right into it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Like and follow and review, please.
Appreciate you.
Bye. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Sports Card Hustle presented by Black Gold Sports Card. My name is Danny, marketing manager, alongside Bryan, the owner and operator. And joining us today, we have a very special guest, the Vice President of CGC Cards, which focuses a lot on grading, and head sports grader over there, Andy Broome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for coming on the Sports Card Hustle.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Anytime.
Absolutely. Now, one thing I noticed right away was I was looking at your LinkedIn, and there was a lot of creativity involved in every step of your career, starting as a writer for Beckett, then transitioning into grading the vintage cards, now vice president and head grader at CGC. I also saw that on LinkedIn that you are a freelance cartoonist. So can you just kind of give some background of how you got to where you are today in your career path?
Well, I still ask myself that same question sometimes, but my card journey, I think it really started in 1983. My father had bought me a pack of 83 Topps baseball at a gas station. And to this day, still don't know why he bought it, but I was hooked. When I was about, flash forward about 10, 11 years old, I started really getting into cards and going to shows, local shows, trading and buying and selling with the kids in the neighborhood. So that just kind of blossomed from there. I started doing shows almost every weekend by the time I was 13. And in that time, I really fell in love with pre-war baseball. Now, baseball was always, one of my favorite sports. But 13 years old, had no idea about what a T206 was or who Ty Cobb was, other than, everybody knew Babe Ruth and Mickey Mantle, those types of names, but start learning about, Walter Johnson and Honus Wagner. And I just fell in love instantly. And so I just dove in head first into pre-war baseball, and it blossomed from there. But as far as a career, it actually started not long after that beginning. I was at a flea market or a trade days in North Alabama, and found the proverbial treasure chest. An elderly lady had a couple of shoe boxes of cards set up at her little space there at the flea market, and started digging through it. Kind of a lot of 70s commons and things. But there are these little square cards in there, and turned out they were Gowdy 38 Gowdy heads up. And these were cool. I'm sure most everybody knows, 38 Gowdies. They feature cartoon drawing the bodies by Al Damari, which was a pre-war pitcher for the Giants. Then use a photo head of the player. So these were fascinating. Went home, got out my almanac, and saw what these things were valued at, and kind of set me back there. And as I got to really examining the cards and looking at the cards, I noticed there was an area of the card missing on the back, and it turns out these were actually reprints, and somebody had removed reprint or tried to remove reprint from the cards, and that fascinated me. Why would somebody do that? What, obviously financial gain, but what all goes into doing this kind of a fraud, really? Right. And so that really set me off on the path of how are cards made, and why are they altered? How are they altered? How are they counterfeited? And it really just exploded from there.
That's crazy.
Yeah. No, that's a super awesome backstory. It's like, wow. So it's more like vintage is kind of what you got into it. You said pre-war baseball. And then did you start doing like cartoons and cartooning after you saw some of these cards with those like graphics on them, or what got you into that?
Yeah. That's my two passions are cards and cartooning and comics. And that was something I was always into, as a young child, always into comics and comic art. And so that kind of blossomed on its own separately. I got into really creating my own cartoons, started selling them. at a fairly young age to magazines and other publications. And so it blossomed kind of a separate path, but they've intertwined so much over the years. In fact, was in 2012, I did a cartoon book about collecting, not just cards, but collecting in general. And so all this whole time through my career, cartooning and cards and card grading have all intertwined, and it's been a fun journey. One of my little hobbies is going to card shows. I'll do some watercolors or some cartoons of scenes from card shows, a little thing that I do. But it's fascinating because of how much crossover there is. I mentioned there was a former major league pitcher who also did cartooning, and his designs were found on multiple card sets over the years. And so it's really fun how these two seemingly separate worlds have intertwined themselves, throughout my life and my career.
So you say you started with like cartoon comic cards, right?
No, as far as cards collecting, I started with baseball, and
okay, so you started with baseball.
Pre-war baseball.
Okay.
Yeah.
So wait, sorry, I'm just trying to get my stuff straight. You said the 38 Gaudi cards were cartoon.
So those are I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just trying to get I'm getting myself confused now. You said the 1938 cards that you were talking about, they were the Gaudi heads up cards, right?
Yeah, that's right. So if you take a quick look at those, you'll see that Jimmy Fox popped into head.
Okay, got it.
Off the top of my head.
Got it.
Yeah. So the real heads and cartoon.
Sorry, I've never seen them before, so I'm just trying to get a picture or idea of what they are in my head. But no, that makes sense. And so do you specifically do, and this is off topic now, and now I'm kind of diving into your role. For being the head sports card grader, do you do everything? You grade everything. It doesn't matter at CGC, Pokemon, comics, sports cards, not magazines though.
No. So, well, as far as CGC Cards, in my role specifically, I actually, amongst my other roles as a vice president, I'm also grading every day. And so I'm over the sports, non-sports grading team. I head that team. And so on a daily basis, I'm grading vintage and pre-war and things of that nature. But each of our divisions here at Certified Collectibles Group, we're very, very specialized, I guess you could say. TCG Pokemon, that's its own grading team.
That's its own grading team. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
So you specifically focus on the vintage of sports cards at CGC.
Yeah.
But you could do the modern if you wanted to, right?
And I do sometimes. I definitely assist. One of my big roles here is overseeing the training of the graders, maintaining the grading line, things of that nature. And so, I'm working every day with the grading teams on what type of material they're grading, also assisting with the grading. And that's not just here in our Florida headquarters, but I have grading operations in Shanghai, China, Munich, Germany, and then we have other areas where we're taking in cards and doing appearances. And so, that's part of my job is maintaining that grading line and standards across all of our global offices. And so, so in that role, I'm also grading, and I do grade modern as well. But my expertise and my passion is more in vintage, sports and non-sports.
Man, I give you props because I'll tell you what. Like, I've taught myself how to grade cards. If I really wanted to sit down, if I feel like I could apply to CGC as a card grader, or that's how I started this business back in 2020. And then I scaled it up to live breaks or live streams, singles. Obviously, we're a huge customer of yours and send a ton of cards to CGC. But man, I give you props for doing the older cards because that is a serious skill. That is hard.
It's funny.
That is literally the hardest card to grade and look at and determine whether it's a 2 or a 1 or a 3 or a 6 or a 9, like to determine those values on things that you've never even seen before, it's insane, right? It's insane for me. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, no, it can be. And, it's everybody specializes in an area when we're talking about cards and card grading, right? And so you may come in as a new recruit and go through our school, and you come out doing ultra modern sports. But pretty quickly you kind of find your path, right? Like there's graders who go vintage, there's ultra modern, 90s basketball, things like that. And so it's it can be daunting, right? If you're trying to grade material you're not familiar with, but really when you get into the higher dollar material and vintage material, it's the counterfeits and alterations that's really the challenge for a lot of people. Sure. And and part of my job is training and training that, teaching the what to look for and things of that nature. And unless you're seeing it in hand every day and actually seeing it and trying to grade that, it can be tough to learn. It definitely can.
So I have a really weird question now. We have somebody on our team. He's been in the hobby for a while. He's a live streamer, does a lot of our singles. Man, the amount of times he sniffed a card to see if there's like that tea or if it smells like cardboard or plastic. Do you do that?
Oh, 100%.
Okay, I had to ask because, man, dude, this is the first thing that John does at work. Yeah. I'll be like, bro, is this real? Got to go to John. He'll smell it.
and this is crazy. I like E cards. So those E cards are candy and caramel cards pre-war. T cards being like T206s and things of that nature. But it's funny how different types of cards have the different smell, right? I can tell T206 from an E92.
See, that's crazy.
Normally by the smell.
Dude, he can tell the difference between that. That is insane. That is a skill.
But that's a lot of years is what that is.
How many years have you been, would you say?
This will be my 27th year of grading professionally.
27 years. Wow. Crazy. So, okay. Another question. How many people are on your team as a sports card grader and being the kind of the person that oversees that compared to your TCG/comic graders at CGC? How many more graders are there? Is the TCG, I'm assuming the TCG and comics there's more of a bigger team?
They're separate. They're separate. So comics is its own.
Got it. So TCG is its own and then comics are its own.
That's right.
What are the sizes of those teams compared to yours?
I believe cards is cards has to be the largest grading team, I would say. Yeah. Out of the
Okay, so you're saying sports cards and TCG combined?
Together. Mm-hmm.
Okay, got it. That would make sense. So there's not just like a specific team for TCG.
There is. 100%, yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if you come on board as just say as a card grader, you go through training, you become a TCG grader, that's all you're going to grade. Like you're not going to ever touch a comic or a coin or paper money. That's their own specialty, their own teams, their own training. And, it really has to be that way, right? For the customers, like, if I'm sending my prized possessions to somebody to evaluate, I want the best experts who are only looking at that material. I don't want somebody that, maybe grading video games yesterday, or in VHS tomorrow. There's teams for that. And so that's a real important thing in grading is, number one, having a specific team for that specific material, but then inside of that team, understanding and acknowledging the specialties that are within, right? Like for instance, I mentioned a minute ago, but I have a grader on my team who is their specialty and their obsession is 90s basketball and basketball inserts. And it's great. And so, they oversee a lot of that material because that's their specialty. And no detriment to this person, but I'm not handing them T206 cards, right? That's not their specialty. That's my specialty. Mm-hmm. That's a few other people in the team specialty. So it's real important, you can't just have an all-in team that grades everything. It's just, just too many nuances and specialties that you have to be aware of.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I've seen that you are the current card expert for the TV show Pawn Stars. Is that true and ongoing? And how did that come about? Because I think that's a pretty sweet piece on your resume.
It's been fun. I've done a few television things, it's related to the hobby. I've been a consultant for Antiques Roadshow over the years, and which is one of my favorites. Pawn Stars was interesting. I got contacted by those guys several years back. And then Matt Quinn is the vice president over TCG here at CGC. He and I both were asked to go on as their card experts.
That's crazy.
So it's great. It's fun. It's a really cool experience. I don't know if you guys have been out to Vegas before and been in the shop, but the showroom that you see on the show isn't the showroom that you walk in the front door. The business is being conducted because they can't stop that down, stop business to film. And so in the same building directly, the wall behind the showroom is a replica showroom. And so that's just for filming.
I was always curious about that.
Yeah, I've never been there actually. I mean, I've been to Vegas one time, but I've never had time to stop there specifically, but
so when they say like, hey, I'm going to call over the card expert, do they actually like call you, or is it something that's like pre-scheduled and like you go at this time, or is it just like, hey, let me give you a phone call and come on over?
No, it's a question I always get asked is, how scripted is it? How fake is it?
Yeah.
And it's really cool because it is almost all real. The only part that's not real on camera is, let me call my buddy who'll be down here in a minute. I'm in Florida, so that part of it's already prearranged. And so I'm there to film. But, as far as the item, the seller, the actual transaction, when Rick would say, I'll give you $1,000 for that. As soon as filming's over, they're going to the cashier and getting $1,000 check for the person. So everything, all of that part is absolutely real. But yeah, let me call my buddy. I'm already, on set sitting behind the camera crew.
Got it.
That
makes a lot more sense actually.
Yeah.
Crazy.
That's just cool to know.
That's super cool.
And there's a little bit of a vetting process too, right? People contact them, however methods, email or phone call or showing up. And, look, they get, especially as the show has, gotten some tenure to it and been around for a long time, they get bombarded with people trying to sell them things and bring things on the show and stuff. And so there's a vetting process where they'll go through, like Rick would go through items that he thinks are interesting or whatever it may be. And that's where me as an expert would come in and say, here's a list, take a look at these and what you think and that sort of thing. And so, and then they set up the filming, and then the customers will come in and do their thing. So, but as far as like scripted or anything, it's what you see is what you get on camera. There's no scripting it out. It's kind of shooting from the hip.
Crazy.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That is awesome. Wow.
Yeah, thank you. I was just curious about that right off the bat, but we can dive more back into CGC.
So
Pawn Stars is a really cool thing. It's been an honor to be asked to be on there, and I hope it continues for many years.
Yeah, I hope so too. I mean, that's just an awesome.
Dude, I don't think that play. Yeah, that's. Are they actually currently like going live still and doing that?
Oh yeah.
I mean, I know that
so.
Replays are going on.
I think like Chumley now does a lot of the negotiating and everything.
Got it.
Yeah.
Crazy. So right now, PSA has made it very clear that there are just not enough graders. Is CGC struggling to find graders? Are you guys having to worry about other companies coming in and taking your graders?
No, one of the great things about Certified Collectibles Group. So I came over here in 2020 to help start the sports grading division. And one of the great things about Certified Collectibles Group as a whole is, like they've been grading coins since the 80s, right? This is one of the oldest collectibles grading companies in the world. And so I come along in 2020 and there is a magnificent infrastructure here in place as far as operations, scaling up, adding staff, whether it's graders or whatnot. And the infrastructure we have on training graders, you come in and want to be a grader, we can train you, regardless on your experience. We have classrooms for that. We have training modules. And so, it's always a challenge to find qualified people, but to be a successful grading company, collectibles grading company, and to have turnaround times that make sense and people, people get their stuff back in a timely manner, you've got to be able to scale. And so, you've got to be able to not only find that talent that's out there that's already ready to go to grade for the most part, but you also have to be able to develop that talent. I've had several graders come in that were just collectors and decided they wanted to give it a try. We hire them on. They go through our extensive classroom training and ongoing training courses, and they've turned out to be some of the best graders I've had. And so it's all about having that structure, a training structure. And because that we're able to scale, and so that's not something that we don't worry about it. We're always looking, and that's one thing, we are always looking to hire graders, but You can't just rely on hoping that somebody has grading experience is on the market when you need them, right? It just doesn't work that way. So you've got to be able to build graders.
Interesting. Yeah. That's crazy. So do you handle, okay, now knowing that, let me think about how I want to phrase this next question. Okay, so obviously with this isn't necessarily to do with grading now, so I'm going to jump onto the next topic. And really, like, the biggest and the hottest take right now in the grading game is PSA bought SGC, and more recently, they've now bought Beckett, okay? And so obviously that comes with like a market shift. What, all Beckett customers now go to PSA. All SGC customers now go to PSA, potentially. Now, the one thing that I'm wondering is CGC, and I don't know how much you're involved with this since you're a card grader and your main role is card grading, but do you have an idea of the outlook for CGC on how you guys plan to attack the grading market? Since there's definitely some people that are really upset about this whole PSA taking over the grading industry, kind of like is it right? Is it wrong? There's a lot of conspiracy about that. And then, so I'm just wondering, what is CGC as a company planning on doing in 2026 to help? I don't know.
What's your response to all that happening? How has it impacted CGC? Are there things that you think it might impact down the line? What does that look like on your guys' end?
Well, I'll start with this. We're over the last 2 years, and especially in 2025. I mean, the numbers don't lie. I mean, we've been the solid number 2 grading company since it was just PSA before they had SGC and Beckett. So, we're not new to this per se. We're a solid number 2, but I think that our CEO Stephen Eichenbaum, I think his statement that he put out really sums it up best, and I can't do quite the justice that he did, but it's on social media.
I saw that actually.
Yeah, and it's not just a puff piece or whatever. It's true, and we're going to do the same thing that we did in 2025, and that's keep the course. Keep going straight ahead, focusing on what's important, staying in our lane. I think Steve said it best. That's one of the best things that we do is we stay in our lane. We know what we're here to do. We're here to grade and authenticate your collectibles, and that's it, right? We want to be transparent. We want to do it with integrity. And so
have you guys thought about
the industry?
Have you guys thought about this? Do you guys take suggestions? I don't know. Like, seriously, I mean, I'm not trying to, obviously you guys can take it. I mean, seriously, we thought about this for a while about how could CGC, because like, there's just we looked at the year-end numbers. You guys did 700, like 1,000 plus sports cards, which were obviously, what was PSA at? 1.1 million. So we're about just over halfway there, maybe just about halfway to what PSA is doing in sports cards, which is great. You guys had like 151% increase in sports cards this year. But what could be the way to really start trickling your numbers to be closer to PSA? And since PSA took SGC, do you remember when SGC would offer these exclusive, hey, submit, what was it? What was it? Sorry, I'm losing my track right here. It was the flagship products. It was all the flagship products. So 2024 Bowman, 2024 Topps Chrome, 2024 Topps, 2024 Topps Series 2, et cetera, et cetera. What they would do is they would offer for like the first 30 days, $9 grading, 5 to 10 day turnaround, business day. That's what SGC did, because like it's so hard to get your foot in, really. And I'm sure you can. Every company has to understand it at a certain level to get your foot really into the sports card world. It's very actually challenging in ways, right? But SGC did this the customers always ask for like a discount. I'm not really asking for that. That's not even me. I'm just speaking on like, hey, I saw a couple comments when the CEO did post. I was reading it and they're like, oh, well, you guys raised the prices. And I'm just thinking from a way that CGC could really bring this back. That was a great thing SGC had going until they stopped doing it, which PSA bought them out. They stopped doing it at that point. Makes sense, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's definitely something that our marketing team is looking at all the time, and we have these discussions, and those are great ideas. Things that material specific specials, things of that nature. I know that you'll see things similar to that in our marketing. That's some of the things that we're looking at for 2026 is more collector and hobby focused, right? Not so much just dealers or just collectors. It's a mix of both, and so we have to serve both groups of individuals. And so that is something you will see from us. That is something we're going to look at doing. I don't know if you call them specials, but we've got some cool things that we're going to be doing in marketing. I think especially towards the end of Q1, I think you'll start to see some cool, fun things that we're doing. We've got some fun things that we're working on that I really think
you guys could kill it with these limited submission deals for flagship type products and keep it consistent. If you guys keep this consistent, I think that if you started it for the first, let's just say you guys started for the first product that releases for baseball. I mean, dude, even better. The next big flagship product for all sports, basketball, football, because Topps is kind of taking over everything. How cool would it have been if CGC did something for Topps Chrome basketball for the first 30 days? Yeah. $9 a card. We'll get them graded and we'll keep it real. We'll have them 5 to 10 days. If that's not suitable, okay, 10 to 15, 10 to 20. I think the collector would be understanding. You're one, giving them a discount. Two, you're getting a CGC graded card in a new collector's hand potentially.
Yeah.
Sorry, we have our front of the shop up here.
Yeah, we do our podcast very we're in store.
I love that, honestly. I love the fact that you've got business going on around you in the card shop while you're doing the show. So I can hear people in the background, but it's fine. I think it's great, honestly. Everybody does their stuff in the studio and it's stuffy, but you guys are right there at the shop.
Yeah, our place isn't awesome. We are. If you go, our place is 3,000 square feet, and we have 5 streaming studios, a shipping department, and then obviously the front of the shop. And we were running out of space, and so obviously that.
I think it kind of works out. You kind of get the ambience of the shop. You hear the ding when someone walks.
Somebody comes in and they're like, "Wow, they're actually doing a live podcast."
Yeah, it's probably.
Hey, it doesn't get more real than that, right? I mean, that's awesome.
But no, I really could see CGC. Cool! I was good. Topps Chrome basketball released, and if they had this deal going on, how many basketball Topps Chrome cards would you guys have gotten, dude?
Yeah, it's a great idea. It's definitely something.
I really think you guys should seriously take this idea and run with it, because SGC had something so good running with it, dude. They're dead in the water. This is a perfect time to do it.
Yeah.
I don't know. This is just my opinion, and I really hope that CGC. I'm trying not to be biased or anything. I grade a lot per se. I looked at my numbers. 32,000 cards I graded with CGC in 2025, and we're gonna try to work and get that number up for you guys. But I would love to see to get collectors. I want you guys to win the trust over of PSA customers, and it's gonna take something super, super big. Okay, that's just my opinion.
Bryan is obviously a huge fan of CGC. On other podcasts before too, you can tell he's fully invested in the future of CGC. He keeps saying that. Yeah, I think there are certain ways, obviously, to attract a new market. A lot of collectors first encountered CGC through comics and Pokemon and everything like that. So on top of what Bryan's saying, do you guys have any other tricks in the playbook for earning more trust in sports, where obviously PSA, SGC, Beckett have been dominant for so long? Or is it kind of just like you said, sticking to what you know?
Yeah, one of the things that I've been looking. Yeah, I mean, that's a big part of it, but we've got more planned than just that. One of the big things for me is is transparency. What I always say is, can you name a grader or a head grader at any of the grading companies? And it's been that way for.
You don't get to talk to the graders.
You can't.
So no, you literally, and just heads up, you don't get to talk to the graders, bro.
Right.
Yeah. And so, but there needs to be some transparency. There's always been that thing about card grading is that, the mystery behind the curtain, right? Everything's a mystery. You can't see behind the curtain and all that. And one of the things that CGC's really worked on is opening up that curtain, opening up that transparency. And where I'm going with this is, it's going to take more of that in the sports market. It's going to take more of us going out, meeting with dealers and collectors both, looking at cards for them, doing the meet the grader events, reviewing cards. One of the things that I always do, and we'll continue to do this and we'll expand on this, is give free reviews on your card. You got a graded card that you want to see about crossing over, or you got a raw card to get an idea on. Every show that we have graders on site, we're doing the meet the graders where we do that.
Yeah.
I think that's really important because number one, you get a free evaluation, right, of your card. That's great. But number two, you're talking to an actual grader who spends 40 plus hours a week doing nothing but grading your cards.
Right.
And so I think that's really important. I don't, look, we all have lots of things in our lives, like you got car problems, you got an auto mechanic, but you're not just going to drop your car off in the front of an auto mechanic business and you're not allowed to talk to anybody and you can't know what's going on and who's working on your car. This is even more than that in the collectibles. These are our prized possessions. And sometimes there's a lot of money invested in these collectibles.
Right.
And so me personally, I want to know who's grading it and I want to know what's going on in the background.
Do you guys have any form of
how is the company
AI
operating
within your grading system right now?
Yeah, that's something, the assistance, the AI assistance is something that we've worked with starting in 2020, into 2020, we started investing in that. And so, that's part of our process. It's not so much in the grading process because I'll just be frank with you. The technology's not there yet. It's just not.
Like you put a card down on a scanner and you're saying that there's no really true way to 100% grab every single piece of evidence on that card to come up with a grade.
Yeah, so a couple of the challenges are you can get an idea of what the corners are going to be. You can get an idea of centering even for the most part. But, it's the learning that's the hardest part. Just think about if you had to give a centering assessment for cards just since 1980 or just even a step further to 2020 even.
Yeah.
Go 6 years back. There's so many Prism Panini products. You can imagine their centering is all over the place and designs are all over the place. We're just not there. And then on top of that, it's the surface. Being able to read the surface of a card and not only read it, but to translate that into what that means as a grade. It's just not quite there for automated grading. Now, what it is great for is attribution. Taking an image of a card and not only identifying the card, because that's pretty easy now, but what's the parallel? Identify the color and the pattern to be able to do that. That's where AI really shines at the moment. That's one of the ways. Fingerprinting, alteration, counterfeit detection, things of that nature. It's good. It's good. There's a lot there, but as far as you stick a card in a machine and it spits out a grade, we're just not there yet.
Right. So would you say for counterfeits, the best way to do it would be through, like, when you initially get the card, you scan it in? Is that the best way to find a counterfeit card?
Well, yeah, it's no different than a human grader. The first thing that a grader is going to do is you're going to authenticate the card. So if I have a card in my hand, the very first thing I'm going to do is it real? That's number one.
Yeah.
If it's not real, we don't go any further anyway. So
Right.
If the card is real, the next thing I'm looking for is alterations. It's real, but is it altered?
Yep.
If we pass those two hurdles, now it's on to the grading, which is that's the easy part.
Yeah,
right?
that's
the
the easiest
downhill
part.
But yeah, that's where you start.
I think your analogy about the car shop, I think that's a really good point. And I think it paints a clear picture for viewers when you see a lot of the qualms about PSA right now or lack of transparency. Even if something does go awry within the grading process, it's hard to get a hold of them, hard to get a response back. So I think that being your biggest focal point, I think is a great direction for CGC. And I think that's a great, I just wanted to close that out because I thought that was a great response that you had there where
Yeah, I appreciate that. And that's the thing is, customer service is a part of that transparency. I don't know if you guys know, but our customer service, you can text them at any time, 24 hours a day. And it's not a AI automated response. It's a real person. So you can call, email, text, whatever. And that's super important, because if I have a problem with the card I send in, or my prize card that I'm nervous about, or whatever it may be, just talking to a human, it goes a long ways, right? And especially 100%. If there is a problem, because look, problems happen. Being able to address them quickly and identify it quickly, that's all very important. It's all part of that transparency. And but yeah, no, I appreciate that. But it's transparency goes a long ways.
Yeah, 100%.
This is interesting. So, what is the biggest myth collectors believe about grading then? There's there's so many speculations. You can prep your cards a certain way, send them in with those little tags on the cards, or what you know what I'm saying? There's you could go on YouTube and type in, how do I submit my cards for grading? And they'll be like, dude, you have to put this like this. And if you don't do it like this, the grader's going to be upset and he's going to give you bad grades.
Yeah, like I said, going into my 27th year of grading, I've heard it all. I hear so many of the same things. I still hear, one of the biggest ones I hear is, how do I know you're not going to take my cards and send me back a different card? And the answer is simple. You don't have a card that's worth our business. I mean, you don't. You can send me the nicest Wagner that you have. It's still a drop in the bucket compared to our business and the size of our business. And so financially, there's not a reason, there's not an advantage to try to swap cards out. But that's the number one I still
That's the number one is swapping cards out.
Yeah. Yeah. Crazy. And then, should I wipe my cards down? Should I do this? Should I do that? And it's funny because, and I understand why, again, going back to transparency, people don't know the grading process. And I think if you saw the actual grading process, most people would realize, man, I'm really overthinking this. Because, look, we see everything. And so you send a card in a dirty top loader, or you send a card in with fingerprints on it, none of that weighs into the grader giving the grade. If it's got fingerprints on a chrome card, they're just going to wipe them with a microfiber and move on, grade it and move on. So, but it's always interesting to hear all these theories. I will say one thing though. I will say about should I wipe cards, should I not? Is the what's going on with cleaning cards today.
I was just about to ask you, Kurt's Card Care. Yeah. Is it allowed or is it not allowed?
Well, here's what we're seeing. It's like, if you're wiping a card and you're not mechanically or physically altering the card and it can't be detected, that's not a true alteration, right? Say you've got something stuck on the front of a card, you're able to wipe it off, doesn't damage the surface, that's fine. What we're seeing is, though, that there are a lot of these cards that are being cleaned with whatever processes or whoever's kits they're using, and they're getting sent back as altered because the surfaces are absolutely mangled. And I don't know if people are not seeing it, but just the hairline scratches. I mean, you can literally look at a card and I can tell you which way you went when you were polishing this card, and where you started. And and what's crazy to me is a lot of the stuff that people are trying to polish off or change really is not the most impactful flaw for the grade. There's other issues that aren't going to be able to be fixed, and so they're altering a card and getting an AA designation on a card that really was going to not grade any worse than they originally thought.
Right.
But that's a big thing. I think people need to understand. If you're doing anything more than a microfiber cloth trying to clean a surface or something like that, if you're using chemicals and stuff, most times that's going to be caught really quick.
So seriously, Kurt's Card Care, it's huge at PSA. They've made a couple statements in the past years. It still seems like it's the collectors go-to cleaning. I hate the word cleaning, by the way, as a prepper. I only use a microfiber cloth. If I'm going to be honest, I will never use the third-party substance. Anything to a card that's third-party other than a microfiber to me is alter. Seriously, it's fraud. It's everything, in my opinion, at least. But you got two sides of the story. And Kurt's Card Care it's still huge. People dipping them into dude, I see it all the time, and it's Kurt's Card Care. So is it allowed or is it not allowed? If you dip a card into any substance, from your stance, is that altering?
Yeah, if it leaves anything that can be detected, it's been all. If it's not in its original state, it's altered. It's altered. Whether
So
it's
there you go.
chemical,
So
whether it's
100%
cleaning
Kurt's
surface.
card care is not allowed.
Yeah, I mean any type of cleaning, and I got it's no different than trimming or power erasing or color add, or even rebuilding corners. I mean you're physically altering the card, the state of the card, right? Whether it's the surface or the edges, and so that's we're going to catch that stuff, and that's what people have got to watch for. You can't really you can't just take a card and improve it 2 grades just because you dipped it in something. It just you can't alter cards.
Yeah, that's literally cheating.
There's no like magic sauce.
And this is a very, very card specific thing, right? You look at coins, you look at comics, and other collectibles, restoration and different types of cleaning, 100% acceptable. Pressing comics, that's very much acceptable, and that's great for comics. But I mean, could you imagine in cards? That's just cards is the one collectible where you want the card in its original state, and anything else, and it devalues the card. And so, we're just in our own little bubble in the card world. But but to that point, it's that's something that we have to watch for every day, and we train on that every day. Is alteration detection, whatever type, whether it be over cleaning a card or trimming or anything in between.
Okay, and so you've been a grader when it was CSG then, right?
That's what started it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's when you started. It was CSG and it transferred over in 2023 to CGC. Why did you guys stop doing subgrades?
Well, subgrades, they had their place in the industry. They were very popular for a time. But there's a multitude of reasons why subgrades have fallen out of favor. And one of them is very basic. That's just speed. It takes 3+ times the amount of time to grade a card in subgrades than it does. Yeah, and that's just a very basic one. Now, that's not a sole reason, because if that was the only reason, we wouldn't stop doing it, right? Because if the customer demand's there, just because it's faster, we're still going to give what the customers want. But that, with subgrade logic, you're locked in in certain situations. You're locked into a grade based on those subgrades, and it's just not it's not a great way to grade, because you're locked in. I guess that's the best way to say it, right? You're locked into that logic. So it just doesn't work. It has definitely lost its popularity. I think we've all seen that. And that after we did so when we merged everything together and came out with the new label, we spent over a year doing that before the public knew anything. We spent over a year researching, doing focus groups and all those types of things. And one of the things that we put in there was, do we continue with subgrades? And even I was a little surprised with the reaction of it was definitely more were in favor of doing away with them. So I think it's just the big thing is a shift in the hobby, a shift in the marketplace to where subgrades were a thing at one time. And we've moved away from, for the most part. I know in Magic, I know that's still Magic the Gathering. I know that's still subgrades are popular. It seems like, but in sports and other TCG, it's not like it used to be. And so the biggest thing is demand. That was the biggest reason.
And so what would be the most clear way of determining a pristine 10 then? So like you don't do subgrades anymore. You got a 10, you got a gem mint 10. How do you determine a pristine 10?
Well, a pristine 10 for all intents and purposes is a near perfect card. Now to the naked eye, it's flawless. Yeah. And even under 10x loop, there should not be a flaw. Now a gem mint 10, there can be a small flaw. Right, that's part of the standard. That's all the major the big grading companies all have that. If you read their standards, a gem mint 10 is not a perfect card. It never has been in anybody's standards, and so that's that big defining difference, right? And I look at the gem mint 10 versus a 1, and it's the end of the scale, right? So you have 10 on one side and 1 on the other, and just because they're the end grades, they're the widest range of possibilities, right? I mean, you've seen a barely 10 to a high end 10. There's a lot of 10 in that space of a gem mint 10. Same with a 1. A 1 could be essentially say torn in half or missing the entire back, or it could be a very nice looking one that had part of the back removed from tape or whatever, and the front looks near mint. There's a wide range there. And so, that's one reason why we implemented the Pristine, was because there is such a wide range of what can be a 10. And so you weren't able to, if you had a super high end 10, it's still a 10. And so we want to reward those cards that are the upper echelon of a almost perfect card. That's better than a gem mint. And there is something better than the gem mint. It's the top of the scale, and that's where the Pristine comes into play.
I think people like,
and so that's what we're looking for.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of good things to be said. I mean, we run singles all the time, and definitely it seems like you guys got something good going with that. So, anyways.
Yeah.
We've caught it. I think I've got everything that I've really wanted to ask, even went more out of my way to ask other questions.
Yeah.
Do you have any final takes that you would like to ask?
I would say, so things are picking up here. It's
Getting crazy here.
But no, I mean, as someone who's like newer into this hobby, I was brought in to the marketing position because of my social media background. I love sports in general, but I made a lot of content about sports. But it was like a newer delve into all the cards and grading and everything. So I think this was one of the most just interesting interviews to have that we've had so far, just because there's so much, obviously, nuance. You have done it for so long that you are very well articulated in the way that you talk about a lot of these things. In terms of other questions, I guess my last question will be, what's on the agenda for CGC in 2026? And let's say the next 5 years, where do you think you and CGC can be at that point?
Well, personally, I hope I'm still going in 5 years. So we'll start with that. But, this has been the topic here for definitely for several weeks, the hot topic. But the way 2025 went and how big everything exploded for us and where we went. I'm excited about 26, but I don't know. I don't know where we're going with the industry. Things are changing so quickly. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that in a very exciting, positive way. Right. I don't know what the next big thing is going to be for the industry. I know that, for us, we're not looking for necessarily the hot trends or what's happening at the moment. We want to stick to our roots and do our thing. That doesn't mean we're just going to sit back and ignore the market and ignore what's going on in the hobby. But, I think the biggest thing for us is we're going to stay the course. We're going to keep doing what we do. And, but as far as the hobby and everything, man, I'm excited. I'm excited for 26. I think a lot of things we're going to see a lot of
2025 just exploded.
I think it really has. And then, with the PSA acquisition, all that, I mean, who knows where exactly that's going to go in the industry. But honestly, to me, it's very exciting times. I'm excited. I love what's going on here. It's been a great, like I said, it's been a great 2025. I love that people are embracing and understanding what we're doing. In the beginning, it was, oh yeah, you guys have a clear holder. That's a really cool holder. And now holders have gotten out there. People are getting cards in their hands and hearing the real responses of, hey, not only is this the best looking holder, but, this is what I'm doing in the marketplace. These are the cards I'm selling. These are the returns I'm getting. And it's exciting. I mean, to watch our values skyrocket, versus other cards on the marketplace, the types of cards we're getting in our holders now, our partnership with Fanatics and Fanatics Collect.
Yeah, you guys are all over Fanatics Collect. I see that big time.
Yeah, we actually have a partnership with them. So I have a grading team in Portland at Fanatics Collect, and that serve only Fanatics Collect. So
we got to get a couple more people, I think, out there, because they're behind a little bit. So I think that's a good thing. Obviously, it means you're growing.
Got more graders headed out there very soon.
Amazing. That's awesome. And then lastly, is there any shot that Black Gold could get a grader to come up here and we could host an on-site grading thing for the community around? I'm just shooting. I had one shot at it. Sure. I'm like, I got the guy on the call. I have to
think it's a fantastic idea. What I would love, let's talk about that. I would love to have a grader up there to meet the grader. I'd love to have somebody from JSA up there to look at autographs. I think we can definitely do something. I think that we could have something cool in the mix there, because we're really, I think that something cool could happen.
100%.
But
for sure, man, let's talk about it.
Let's do that.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, other than that, I mean, we really appreciate your time. You just seem like a super great guy, easy to talk to. It was a lot of fun going back and forth.
Yeah, this place is really starting to get pumping up here. Man, it just got busy just like that. I don't think it's ever been this loud on one of our podcasts.
Because we can hear through our headphones. So usually it's just we can hear each other, and then all of a sudden we just hear.
Oh my God.
Whatever. But no, we really appreciate your time, and it was a lot of fun, and thank you for coming on.
Yeah, we appreciate you a ton. Thank you for all your work.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you, and thanks for having me on, and I'd love to come back.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
for sure.
We'll have to get you up here and Nick Conti as well. All right. Let Nick know I say hello.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thanks,
All right,
man.
Thank you so much.
See ya.
All right, thanks, guys.
Yeah, take
Bye.
care.